Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about having the Sun in Aries and Venus in Gemini in a natal chart. Now, if you have the Sun in Aries, as far as the basic fundamental character goes, can be, aggressive, assertive, courageous, forceful, combative, and impatient. The Sun in Aries may also have a lot of single-minded focus, but if you have your Venus in Gemini along with this, now matters of the heart, the person may be more mercurial, I could say that again, mercurial, adaptable, flexible, and changeable. The thing is, the person's basic fundamental character, which is the Sun, may be one way, but in matters of the heart, romantic connections and relationships, which is Venus, the person may be another. It's important to keep in mind that astrology, it's not so much contradictions, but contraindicators. A person's, basic character may be one way, but in terms of what is enjoyed and, what the person loves, relationships, connections with this, which is Venus, can often be, different. Keep in mind, when you have the Sun in a certain sign, you could have Venus in 5 possible signs. It can be either, it could be in your Sun sign, it could be in the first sign following it, the second sign following it, or the first sign before it, or 2 signs before it. So, that's why you have to look at, everything in the chart when you're making analysis on a person, astrologically speaking. Now, as far as Aries Sun and Gemini Venus goes, another thing about it is that this could be the kind of person that gets bored easily if things become monotonous with others. Keep in mind that Aries is, very active, very, action-oriented and impatient. Gemini energy is restless and disdains boredom. So you have, the Aries, again, the basic fundamental character, one that can be impatient and adventurous and, wants to stay busy doing things. And, Aries can get bored if things, become stale. And then you have, Venus and Gemini can value, things that are, of variety, versatility. And so when you have that energy, you could understand why this person, you got to be exceptionally careful. If you're involved with somebody that has an Aries Sun in Gemini Venus, I would even say the other way around. If somebody has a Gemini Sun and Venus in Aries, this is a person that can be very, antsy, restless, in terms of, their connections and just who they are in general. And another thing, too, is that this combination of Aries Sun and Gemini Venus may be action-oriented and, may enjoy, making money in manifold ways. The Sun in Aries, generally has, good, very strong, vitality. Keep in mind that the Sun is exalted in Aries. Now, there can be, again, the contraindicators and, in the chart, like if somebody's got an Aries Sun but has a Cancer or Pisces ascendant, naturally their energy, is not going to be nearly as, strong as the typical Sun in Aries. But generally speaking, Sun in Aries can have a, good vitality and energy. And you have, the thing about this, it's like, and also Venus and Gemini can, again, make money in many ways. There may be versatility in terms of money. So, the person may have more than enough energy in doing this. Now, also, too, when you look at this combination, I would say this person, he or she, may have a very strong aversion to being stagnant or idle. I mean, this is a person that often wants to, be on the move, constantly doing things. Again, Aries is very, Sun and Aries, very action-oriented as far as the basic character, the true self. And the Venus and Gemini, of course, can, enjoys, doing, multiple, manifold things, having variety. And the thing is, keep in mind with the Sun being posited before Venus, he or she, their own wants may take precedence over their, relationships, because you have the Sun, which is about the self, being in front of Venus. And the thing is, now let's say if the Sun, semi-squares Venus, as an example, you could have a semi-square because I believe that the biggest disparity in degrees you could have is like 48 degrees between the sun and Venus. So you could have a 40, 45 or near 45 degree, aspect between the sun and Aries and Gemini and Venus. Say, for example, if the sun in Aries is at 29 degrees and you have, Venus and Gemini, at 15 degrees. That would be an example of a semi-square aspect between the two planets. And if that is the case, there could be a conflict between doing what one wants, which is the sun, and matters that are pertaining to relationships, which can include, the significant other, marriage partner, and even romantic connections and important friendships. Gemini, if you have, Venus and Gemini, those one or more of those relationships may actually be with a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant person, or those that simply embody the characteristics of the sign. It could be with people that are very mercurial, restless, contradictory, mobile, ambivalent, loquacious, talkative, verbose, but may also have a tendency to gossip as well. And also, about this combination, there may be, much activity in terms of body and mind, considering the sun in Aries can be very physically active. And then, you have the Venus in Gemini, which can value, a lot of mental stimulation, mental activity. So it's a person that, wants to, constantly, I would say, be doing things. Again, we're going back to the aversion to being idle or stagnant. And, the thing about this too is this combination can be such where the person, may be very bold, aggressive, and courageous in terms of, not being afraid to ask questions to others that they're in, their connections, their relationships with, which can include, again, the significant other, marriage partner, romantic partner, and romantic partners, and important friendships. This person, can be very bold and abrupt, and when being inquisitive regarding others, and not afraid to ask the tough questions, sometimes personal ones. So you got to be careful not to be overly intrusive. Now, the sun in Aries, the sun is about what we want. And the sun in Aries wants new beginnings, new projects and endeavors. And Venus in Gemini may want connections, again, that are mentally stimulating. So this person may go through a lot of, new beginnings, in terms of, their relationships and, things. If the people that they find are not, mentally stimulating or encouraging, or they can't learn from him or her, then, this person may move on, to greener pastures, so to speak. So, and if you have, if you know somebody that has this combination, the sun in Aries and Venus in Gemini, it's important to keep, that variety going and to stay active and constantly do things, because the thing is, this person may take off on you if you don't stay active and be adventurous and try, different things, mentally, physically. So that's important to keep that in mind. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.